This episode of the CZ Media Podcast is brought to you by Rancho Bravo Tacos. They have two convenient locations, Capitol Hill and Wallingford. I love going to Capitol Hill. I'll go order my food, whether it be tacos, burritos, or tamal. I love their tamales. They're fantastic. And then I'll go sit on the patio, enjoy my meal, and then wait for something interesting to happen. And given that it's Capitol Hill, something interesting always happens. If you don't have time to go to either location, you can always order through your favorite food ordering app, Uber Eats, Caviar, or Chow Now. They make it really easy to get all of your favorite items. So next time you're craving some delicious Mexican food, stop in or order. You'll be glad you did.
Tonight I'm feeling mean, I'm feeling mean. Tonight I'm feeling mean, I'm feeling mean. Tonight I'm feeling mean, gonna make an ugly scene. Tonight I'm feeling mean, I'm feeling mean. Tonight I'm gonna pick myself a fight. If some deserving dirtbag a black eye, and if he swings at me, then I'll bust that sucker's knee. 'Cause tonight I'm feeling mean, I'm feeling mean.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the CZ Media Podcast. Before we get started, I want to remind everyone to check out our sponsors, Rancho Bravo Tacos. I love street food. I love Mexican street food. How about you, Vanessa?
I love it. I have been to Rancho Bravo many times, especially while drunk. So
Yes,
they do the Lord's work.
They do.
Really.
That is definitely the place to go after you hit the clubs on Capitol Hill here in Wallingford. They have a new item called the Birya Taco. It's delicious. It's a slow-cooked beef. Then they simmer it in this really good sauce, put cheese on it, griddle it, put more cheese on it, toast it, put more cheese on it, and then it's served with this consomme, which is this kind of like soup, but you dip the taco in it.
Oh my God.
Super delicious. They're about to release a new item called a papa loca, which is the super fancy version of a spiraled fried potato.
Whoa.
But it'll be
I
good.
want to try it.
It'll be really good. So check them out. And then check out Jackson over at Crunchy Red Fruit. He was a canless sommelier for a really long time. And through his career there, he developed relationships with a bunch of vineyards throughout all of Europe. And they're small producers that really love their product, love their wine. And he brings them all together with in his wine circle, and you get really great wine curated by him. So
Nice.
Check him out, Crunchy Red Fruit. Today, as you can see, you're seeing me face. I usually don't like to show my face.
Why? It's so
Oh,
lovely.
man. I'm just this big brown blob.
I'm just a big white blob, We're all just blobs at the end of the day.
That's true. But the COVID hit me right in the face this week, so I can't have anyone in the studio for a while. Everything's fine. I'm probably negative as of right this second. But, the whole be responsible and keep people at bay part I will adhere to. So, Vanessa.
It's appreciated.
Well, yeah, there's no way. It's like my previous guest, he was here, and then like 4 days later is when I got my test, and I'm like, holy mackerel. It's like, do I got to call him and tell him that so I
it's
called
like having
him.
an STD.
That's exactly what I told him. I said, you know what? I said, I know what it feels like to have had sex with someone and then call them and tell them that you have herpes or something. I was like, I anguished over this decision to say, I tested positive and you were here a few days, a handful of days ago. But luckily he's clear. No.
Yes. I also got the message from Eric. He is a co-host of mine for Strange Eons. And so we were going to meet remotely if he was positive.
Yeah,
so
man,
we're in the loop.
I would have felt so bad. I would have felt so bad.
Oh,
But luckily it wasn't, and he's clear. And the herpes sticks with me and has not moved forward. But yes, Vanessa, as you mentioned, you are part of the Strange Eons podcast. My audience knows you guys already because I've had both of your boys on, one a couple times, and I just love the show. As you can see, I'm repping.
Oh, yeah.
I got the shirt. I won't show you the underpants, but I also got the underpants.
You would be the first one not to. I will say that. I've seen Kelly's underwear more times than I wish to, but that's okay.
Hopefully, hopefully he listened to his mother and say, when you go out, always wear clean underpants.
I hope to Christ. But the podcast love definitely flows both ways. We love your show. We love listening to it. We love participating in it, and it's finally my turn.
Well, thank you.
It's finally my turn to jump on.
I was a little bit nervous because I've been thrown under the bus a couple times.
Thrown under the bus? What do you mean?
have. Well, the first one was yes, it's true. I did say that after hearing a live show, there was kudos for Eric for the editing work he puts into it.
True.
I did say that, but
that's okay.
What Kelly failed to mention was that was after at least 3 bottles of wine.
Sure.
At least.
So you felt it, but you didn't want to say it out loud, and then you did by accident. Is that what you're saying?
Well, it was one of
you
those.
Let it slip.
Which I don't even know what I was saying. First of all, that's so common. I'm like, I don't know what I'm saying. I have no idea.
It's not insulting. All of our shows are edited. So I think Kelly was just trying to give you some shit. I think he was trying to put you in hot water.
The look on his face right after I said that was he was sitting with his arms crossed, and then I said it, and then he stood up. And then he just got this really weird look on his face, and then I'm like, oh man. It's like I don't even really know this guy, and I've already super insulted him.
In fairness, Carlos, that is after 3 bottles of wine both of you enjoyed. So Kelly might have taken that to a place it did not need to go.
He's it's fine. He didn't get in, and then he likes to bring up how I'm recently orphaned. So we're even Stevens. We're even Stevens on that.
Good Lord.
See?
That's a deep cut. That's harsh. That's like a jail wound.
It's in fun. So that was the one. That was bus under the bus number 1. Then bus under the bus number 2 was you couldn't properly celebrate your 150th episode because he was uber hungover. And then he didn't blame me, but sure. I felt the blame.
You shouldn't feel the blame. Kelly's hungover all the time.
Person. I'm very sensitive.
If you weren't there, he would have been hungover anyway. It's okay.
Yeah, that's true. That's true, probably. All right.
No,
so thank you. Even though,
you know what, as much shit as Kelly might give you, he has such a man crush on you. We hear about how amazing you are nonstop. Like, I started getting mad about it. I was like, Kelly, you're ours. You can't leave us.
I'm a lunatic.
I don't want to hear about this other podcaster.
I'm a lunatic, and I'm attract other lunatics. So
what does that say about me? I don't know.
You are you know what? I don't even know what you are. Actually, this is kind of an interesting topic.
Yeah.
You have 100. Well, no, you have about 100 episodes with them.
Yeah. 150, I think. Yeah.
Well, you.
Oh wait. Oh, that I'm on.
That you're actually on.
Totally. Yes, you got it. Yeah.
So I mean, I've already completely deviated. But the reason I'm bringing this up is because I was scrolling through Instagram today, and I came across Bob Saget's account, and rest in peace, Bob Saget. And his account still up there. And the last picture that he posted was right after his show, like the day before he passed. So now he just has tens of thousands of comments. And I thought, man, I told my wife, I said, this is really surreal, because this is literally, hours, less than a day. Yeah. And then he's not here anymore. And then just thinking about that, and then thinking about how, I only have 82 episodes out there, but, in 10 years, people can still hear the absolute lunacy that comes out of my mouth.
Yeah.
And I think that that's a really interesting thing to think about.
You live forever now through, you think about, I actually have a master's in lit, like in another life when I was studying books. And you would go to these archives, these old archives, to discover what the writers' letters were. And that's how you found out about their lives, was through the correspondence they had with their loved ones and with their friends. And they have these like just ancient letters. And they were talking about how they were afraid in the modern day they wouldn't have access to anything. They wouldn't be able to build an archive off of people because everything was through email. And now I'm wondering if our digital footprint is going to be like enormous. So all of us will be buried with these like thumb drives or something. And you can go through and see all of our photos and Instagrams and podcasts, and, everything that we ever did feels like it exists and will exist for all of time. My great grandkids might be like, oh, hey, there's that day that Grammy got drunk on the Strange Eons radio. That's
just really, if you really think about it, that is mind smashing. Yeah, and especially for people who put themselves out there, it's even more so. Like just a regular person who just does their dopey videos. It's like, okay, you might get a 10-second clip that's worth anything. But then for someone who has spoken into a microphone for any considerable of time, that is a really interesting thing. Even just thinking of Roger Ebert, where he lost his voice, but a company out of New Zealand, I believe, did this whole archive of his voice. And when he's typed, it was his voice that was reading, that was people could hear. So he had so much content out there that he could have, if the word flabbergasted need to be said, I'm sure he had said it at some point, and he could say it after his he had his treatment where he couldn't speak anymore.
What a weird thing though, because I bet he would hate that, because like the intonation is going to be different each time you say flabbergasted. And now forever, that one time you said flabbergasted and it was in that one way. I know I would be like, what the fuck, man? Right. That wasn't what I meant. that wasn't how it came across at all. Yeah.
Or even Val Kilmer now. He's the same way. Have you seen his documentary? I think it's just called Val. It's on Amazon. Where I didn't know this. He kept this pretty quiet, but he lost his ability to speak a few years ago. And
what did he have throat cancer?
I believe so. Yeah, I believe so. And in the documentary, it's just about him going, because he was an avid archivist of his life. So he has boxes and boxes of footage of himself and of pictures, like a lot of behind the scenes and a lot of the movies he was in. His kid narrates, which kind of sounds like him, but it's that's just got me thinking. And then if once I started thinking about that, then you start thinking about movies and how people make movies, and like that's their like, we don't know. You leave your mark. So when you make movies, that's what you're leaving. And to tie it back to what we were talking about off air is, I think that's really cool with someone who has an idea. Either their buddy had an idea and then he brings on another buddy that says, hey, I know how to hold the camera. I know how to use a microphone. And then you bring it all together, and then poof, you can make this film happen. And whether it is fantastic or whether it's not, that is super impressive that you were able to wrangle. And that's why I wanted to chat with you, because I've seen a few of your short films, and it's like, man, that is like super cool.
Yeah, it's interesting too. I was just thinking as you were talking how it's so strange. I made these short films when I was almost a different person. I had graduated film school in England, and this is now, God, well over, probably between 15 and 20 years ago, right? And I had a short film about a girl who is part deer, and which I'm still very proud of, but it was such a long time ago. And Eric played it at a film festival that he was running, and that's how I met Eric. But he was introducing me to some people during the summertime, and they were like, "Oh yeah, Heart," and I'm like, "What?"
Wow.
They're like, "Yeah, we know you through Heart," and I'm like, "How?" Like, how is this the case? Like it only played so many places, and you don't think that you have, when you make art, you don't think it has an impression. You don't really think that it has a footprint, but it does.
Right.
It really does just keep going beyond you. It first hits your inner circle and then outer circles, and you never know like who's going to see it and how they're going to interpret it and where it's going to go. So I don't know, it feels like it's always valuable to put out there, even if you're still learning and trying and struggling.
Right. I mean, it's easy to hate. It's easy to break down and criticize.
Mm-hmm.
It's the hardest thing in the world to create. And then to, bring in other people who share in it. And
oh my gosh.
So in how many short films in total have you made?
So I have made, I think it's 7 or 8.
Oh wow.
Somewhere in there. Yeah. I have a couple that I haven't put out. Like I filmed and they're in a certain point in the post process and never quite pushed out the nest. So I'm trying to, during COVID, finally do that finished business. But yeah, and I've been a part of many, many more than that.
Oh, that is so cool.
But as far as my own writing, directing, I'd say somewhere around 7 or 8.
Then
she feels like nothing.
So how many are available to see? Because I think I've only seen 3.
I think 3. Yeah. I think I've got a couple. So Jonah and the Whale, Heart, Red Summer. I think those are the ones that are publicly out there. And then there's a lot of film school stuff that I have buried that I don't want anyone to find under any circumstances.
Why?
They're bad. They're so bad. They're so bad.
I want to see one now.
No, the first short film I ever made, which was halfway through film school. Halfway through film school, you have to make your first short, and they just push you out of the nest. And then at the end of film school, they had me do a second one. And that first one, it is every cliche a young, emotional girl could have. There is talk of suicide. There is death. It's dark. She's crying, but she's also wearing Converse because she's cool. She goes in a graveyard and she hangs out. She's taking pills. Like, there's Shakespeare. It starts on a black screen with Shakespeare. It is so unbelievably bad. It's absolutely horrific to watch. But I do have to say, rewatching it, which I did pretty recently, I was like, oh, hey, that's my old apartment. That's what that looked like. That's fun. So it was awful, but I was like, memory lane. I can at least enjoy that.
Did you have a goth phase?
Emotionally, yes. Physically, no. Goth on the inside.
See, I want to see this though. How many people are in this? Are you in it? Are you in it and directing?
I had to play the voice of a sister on a telephone call because I didn't have any other female Americans to play the part. I did hire an actress, and I convinced a friend's father and sister to be extras in it who walk in the background at one point. So pretty solid work. I really pulled out the big guns for that.
So did you go to film school here in Seattle?
I did not. I went to film school in England.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That is super cool. So this is the crazy thing about having listened. I'm nuts. I mostly listen to podcasts. I don't listen to the radio. I barely even watch network TV. I mostly just watch YouTube.
Same. Yeah.
But I know that you grew up in Anderson Island.
Yes. Yeah.
You went to the UK after high school.
Mm-hmm.
You like pizza and the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. You don't like fart jokes.
It's like it's like if I got to heaven and somebody has like a screenshot of my life and it's just like one-liners.
Yeah.
All accurate so far.
And actually, you've spoken about Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles that I've never read a comic in my whole life. I read my first one of not too long ago. And
which one?
It was on Comicsology.
Comicsology?
Yeah, it was one of the free ones, but it's like a reboot.
Oh, huh.
It was only 28 pages, and it followed the storyline of the Megan Fox Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, which I hated.
Oh no, that sounds upsetting.
It was where she named them, and I didn't like that at all.
And they're aliens. Yeah, they're not even Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. They're alien turtles.
Yeah, it's nuts. So because I completely lost my frame of thought, but I will blame it on COVID brain.
But I like the turtles.
I know you like the turtles. I know you like the turtles.
Yeah.
So you wrote it, right? What's this called? This first one that we're talking about?
The first film?
Yeah.
Why should I say it out loud?
Okay, let's call it spiritual goth.
It's called Property of Blood, which is a King Lear quote, which starts the film.
It's also one of Megadeth's most famous songs.
Oh, really?
No, it's not true.
Oh, okay. I don't know enough about Megadeth to not get
neither do I.
To get pawned by that.
So you had this idea for this. You said, so the film school project, they just said, make one, here you go. So my brain automatically goes, what camera did she use? What microphone did she use? Did she do on-camera audio, or did she do external? Did someone hold the boom? How did she mix? Because I'm not very good at syncing audio.
Yeah,
I like to just do everything in camera. So that's what my brain goes to. So I will ask those questions first. Give me the technical deets first.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it's film school, so everything's like beg, borrow, or steal. My film school was not cheap, but that doesn't mean that they didn't skimp out at every possible opportunity. So for the first film that we did, we didn't have to find our own crew. We had to use each other to a certain extent. So my assistant director and my producer, all those people who were a little less technically inclined were people from my class. And then they gave me a DP and they gave me a sound guy. Oh. Yeah. So I actually did have a DP and I did have a sound guy, but the problem is, like, when DPs and sound guys are hired to film schools to help people do their very, very first ever film, they don't exactly hold a lot of regard for these people. No. So my DP hated me. I can't remember my sound guy liking me much more than that. And but yes, they were recorded separately. It wasn't a great camera. It was a pretty shitty Sony camera at the time that shot onto mini DV tapes. Oh, okay. And that was how actually most of my initial short films were done until like my 5th or 6th film. So
have you ever shot anything on a film camera?
I have not. It would be so cool. But we were, as expensive as my film school was, they were not willing to pay for film stock. No,
I love film. I have one digital camera and probably 24 film cameras. I developed my own black and white.
Oh my God.
It's relaxing to me. Wow. Mixing chemicals and all of that stuff.
I did that in high school. I took a photography class and I was really bad at it. So it's probably for the best that I don't develop film, but that's such an incredible, it's such a physical process, and it smells awful.
It very much so.
Yeah. But it makes you feel like you're really part of it, which is pretty cool.
So I love shooting. I've taken thousands and thousands of photographs. I've developed hundreds of rolls.
Wow.
Like maybe 50 of them
are worth even keeping.
That sounds about right.
Like a D. 50 of them are a D. Maybe 3% of them are a C+.
I don't think people realize how effing difficult it is to like actually process film. Like I mean, like I said, in high school, I took like a film class. It is so hard. I think out of the whole year, maybe out of 100 pictures, I had 2
that's
that like weren't blurry and like actually developed kind of within a visibility that the human eye could see. It's really hard. It's really, really hard. So that's, I mean, the fact that you keep doing it, that's incredible.
Man, I'm a glutton for punishment, man.
No kidding. You have to hate yourself to do that.
I've taken trips to Italy, Slovenia.
Oh, wow.
Well, in like Mexico, we go to Mexico a ton, and then just feel that I have these fantastic pictures, and then I come home and get them developed. And
that's the worst. I had a similar, even though I had other people develop my pictures for me, I would still, you know, go to the Vatican and, you know, take pictures and be like, yeah, this is incredible. And later look at it and be like, why did I bother? I should have bought some postcards and just stuck them in. That would have been a better situation.
That's right. No, I'm not even mad about it anymore. But I still enjoy doing it. I still buy crazy lenses for my stuff because, this is the lens you need for the Pentax 6.7. This is the lens you need.
Old Russian lenses and God, there are some beautiful, incredible lenses out there. So one of the things that happened for a later film of mine, I think actually was for Heart. So I shot that movie. A lot of people will come back to me and say, oh, it's really beautiful. It looks really incredible. The colors really pop and you really get this sense of depth. What they don't know is that camera had a fixed lens. And I used what was called the movie tube adapter. Which is this kind of artificial lens you put on the top of a fixed lens to allow you to swap lenses in and out to give it a cinematic feel.
Right.
So it was just pure cheating, just absolute cheating. And there are ways to make crap look so gorgeous through lenses.
I mean, we're not all, who directed The Shining?
Kubrick.
We're not Kubrick who can get custom made, you know, 0.2 aperture lenses made for his film.
I mean, half of us can't, you know, rent a diopter, which is literally 2 lenses with like a smear in the middle. Like even that is really hard to get a hold of and they're expensive. Yeah. But, you know, when you can, every little bit you can do is incredible.
One of my favorite photographers is Mapplethorpe. Robert Mapplethorpe. And a common thing that they used to do back in the 70s to get this nice glow that you can just do Gaussian blur now in Photoshop to get this is that they would put leggings, pantyhose. I don't know what they're called now.
Pantyhose.
They would just put pantyhose over the lens and then it just stretch it out and then just diffuses that light and you get this nice soft image. Or even in the 80s, they would put Vaseline on the lenses to get this.
Just smear it on around.
So it's not cheating. It's using...
It's innovation.
That's right.
Which is funny because pantyhose has a really strong tradition in filmmaking because you also use that to prevent on mics, prevent the high end pitches and the spittle from hitting. You would just take pantyhose and stick it on a little round thing in front of the mic. Exactly. Just like that.
Pretty much pantyhose material.
Yep. That's one step away. That's really nice pantyhose right there. That's expensive ass pantyhose.
Yeah. So that's, I mean, as directors, I mean, assuming you have to think of all of this stuff because it's like, I want to do this, but I can't buy the tool that's specifically made for it. So I have to adapt.
Yeah. I think a lot of filmmaking is problem solving. A lot of it is just being able to think on your feet and to fix issues in the moment, because not only are you not going to, when you're starting out, especially, you're not going to have a lot of money, you're not going to have a lot of options. So you're trying to scramble stuff together and make things just happen. But then on the day, everything's going to go wrong anyway. So all your plans are going to go out the window, and you've got to figure it out right there in the moment, while you've got a crew and cast and everybody just standing there waiting, looking at you.
Just looking at you. That's so funny. It's the Mike Tyson quote of everyone has a plan until they get hit in the face. Kind of applies to anything. You think you have a plan. It
really does.
But nope, it's out the window. So that, not only that I have my laid back Mexican attitude of we'll do. It's I'm not a planner. I'm definitely I related the quote that the Joker did in The Dark Knight when he's in the room with Harvey Dent, where he goes, "Do I look like a man with a plan?" It's like, that's me. Because it's like, unless you're the only person that this plan hinges on, it's a roll of the dice if it's gonna work or not. So why get so emotionally invested in the plan?
Film is so hard because you do want to plan as much as humanly possible up front. You want to do as much as you possibly can ahead, because so much is going to go wrong that it's almost like you're coming with all your arsenal. And it's like, okay, I don't have much of a budget, but I did spend, months on the script, making sure the script is tight. And I spent a bunch of time trying to make sure that I at least had a location that looked okay. And I tried to really scour the actors, and I couldn't pay them much, but even so, like, I spent the extra time finding the right people. So it's weird. It's like a mix of both. It's a mix of being able to just roll with it and not freak out and not have a meltdown when everything falls apart in front of you.
Right.
But also to be able to try and show everybody around you that you have shown up and you're like the captain. It's like being in the army.
Yeah.
It's like I've shown up. I have, the war plans, and I'm ready to go. I know what we're gonna do, blah, blah, blah. Well, it turns out they're coming from the east, sir. Oh, well, you know what? That's fine. We can just make that work too.
Yeah, let's just turn around.
Yeah.
Well, there's being prepared, and then there's being dead set on your plan.
Yes. And that's the problem. I think you're totally right there. Like, if you can't pivot, if you can't accept when things go wrong, you're going to have a really bad time in the film world.
Right.
Really bad. You're just not going to make it. It's never going to be what you think it's going to be ever at any given moment. I mean, Heart. So one of my short films is a really, really good example of this, because just speaking from my own experience, there were so many things that went horrifically wrong with that movie. For example, that movie is a silent film with a beautiful musical score.
Right.
It feels almost like a music video, right? It's really like touching, and it feels like the music drags you through. It's because I couldn't afford a sound guy.
That is so interesting.
I couldn't afford one, and I knew I couldn't afford one. And so I was like, well, I can't have anybody there to do it. I'm not going to waste my time on getting somebody who's like really subpar, or getting a friend to do it. It's going to sound like garbage. I'll just compose something later. And there's this really beautiful moment where my lead actress, who is part deer, interacts with a herd of deer, and they come up to her and she feeds them and all this stuff. Now, I was trying to figure out what to do with this damn deer scene for like weeks.
It's like, where are these deer coming from?
Yeah, totally. I was like I was scouting out English parks, and I was like, okay, Richmond Park has a lot of deer, but how do I know they'll be there on the day? Like, am I going to have to run around chasing these deer, trying to find deer? And out of nowhere, a friend of mine was like, oh yeah, me and my girlfriend just went on this like weird thing where we went to this sort of English version of Northwest Trek. And this one guy owns like several farm fields, and he decided to like, he inherited this farmland, and he threw it all out the window, and he was like, you know what? I don't want to be a farmer. I'm just going to make it into a sanctuary for the local animals. And because of that, he had all these deer, different kinds of deer came and like established families on his farm, and he had 3 different herds that were living there. And so I talked to him and convinced him to let me film there.
Oh.
And he asked how much money I had and gave me a price. And I said, okay, what if I told you it was a student film? And he changed that price significantly.
Oh.
And it actually wasn't a student film. It was actually post-student film.
Well, we're always learning.
But you know what? We're always learning. And I asked him, what if? I didn't say I was. And so for shoestring budget, he let me film with his herds of deer who were right there. Yeah. And they knew him as like their leader. So if he walked behind my camera from left to right, they would follow him.
Oh, nice.
I mean, this is all happy accidents. This is stuff that happened days before I started shooting. So it could have been a totally different beast. And that's why filmmakers are incredible people, because they freaking made it happen.
Would you ever
whatever it is?
Would you ever resorted to like cutouts of deer?
Oh my God. CG deer or cardboard deer, or I don't even know what I would have done.
People in a deer costume.
Yeah, I totally just get somebody like that. Would have been too expensive. I couldn't have rented a full deer costume. My God, I could barely afford the like almost everything that people are wearing on that film was just stuff that I bought and returned after. They all had to keep their tags on.
That's funny. I didn't even think about wardrobe.
Yeah. It's expensive.
See, in my stuff, everyone's just wearing their regular stuff. But of course, if you want them to have a look, because in that short film, they're like in a uniform, right?
Yeah, they're in like a school uniform.
Yeah, they're in a school uniform. I saw it.
That's so weird. It's so weird you saw this movie I made in 2007 and we're in 2022.
No, when she took her hat off and there was horns, I'm like, whoa.
Yep. Yeah. I had a girl that I somehow got a hold of, was able to cast these little deer horns and make it happen and attach it to this girl's hair. It was incredibly painful every time she took her hat on and off. They really like pulled and yanked onto her scalp, and she was a real trooper.
Nice.
Yeah.
That is super cool. So, I mean, that's what I was saying. That's the people who make, I just find super fascinating.
Yeah.
And it's like, I want to shadow, like it would be like one of the things that I want to do is to just be a fly on the, like just shadow and watch how all that works. I've joined a few, I don't use Facebook, which I probably should, because they're not, Instagram just isn't built that way. And that's what I use mostly. But I've joined these groups, filmmaker groups on Facebook, but it seems like a lot of this stuff is just the same. Like there's a bunch of people that flake out on everything. Nothing really ever seems to happen. A lot of people have ideas, but doesn't go anywhere. Mm-hmm. And it's one thing that I do not like. And I've actually ended friendships because of this, where people who have like, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. But then at the end of the day, they don't do anything. And all they do is waste my time, waste my brain in all of these things, and it doesn't go anywhere. And I don't like that. So that's part of the reason that I'm really digging talking to you guys and listening to your show, is because you've done it. And I'm like, I'm just so, Yeah.
It's funny. So I teach sometimes part-time some film stuff, and I talk to my students about what it takes to be a filmmaker, and the threshold is so low. Show up.
Yeah.
Show up and you will be successful.
Yeah, that's what it's like for a lot of things too, which is weird.
It's true. So many people do flake out, and it's amazing how many people have a dream or a vision or an idea or enthusiasm, but they can't just show up.
Right.
And if you can just do that, then already, I mean, Seattle is very famous for that because we've got the Seattle freeze. So as it is, people do not want to leave their homes. They don't want to leave the comfort of their blankets and the glow of their televisions. And if you throw in the concept of standing in the rain and filming something, they're like, yeah, that sounds great until the day. And then they're like, that sounds awful. So Seattle, we have a lot of that.
My wife attributes the origins of the Seattle phrase to the fact that there have been 3 serial killers here who preyed on people who they were asking for help. Like Ted Bundy. One of his victims was in Snohomish Lake, and he pretended to be hurt and needed help with something, and then the girl helped him, and then by the time and he did that. So that's what she attributes the Seattle freeze to, where it's just not a lot of motivation to go out and do stuff because you're raised saying these serial killers are going to get you. I'm from Chicago. I'm close to Chicago. I'm from the Midwest.
Yeah.
So if people say that Midwesterners are friendly, it's not that, it's just that we like to talk. We'll be in a line somewhere. And if Lori leaves for anything, by the time she comes back, more times than not, I have already started a conversation with someone near me about something. Mm-hmm. So I'm the crazy person, but you're right. Where it's just tough to get stuff going here. I've lived here in Seattle for almost 20 years, and it's really. I mean, I have like 3 pockets of friends that are all into something, but I was really only able to get those within the last 10 years.
Wow.
Before that, it was really tough. It was really tough for me to insert myself into. I mean, I'm a jerk a lot of the times too. I like to offend.
Yeah, Seattle, it is a really strange thing. And I your wife definitely, I love her theory. I think that's incredible. I don't think we're that smart. I really think it's down to I think it comes down to we're friendly. And in the moment, we love to make the people around us happy. We're people pleasers. So we're going to have like a very friendly conversation. But then when it comes to the action and when it comes to the follow-up, the idea of pursuing something or pushing something or going that extra step, it's a bridge too far. And I really, for me, I always think it comes down to how rainy it is, because the idea of if I have to get out of my house and go somewhere to like another person's house, I have to walk from my front door through the rain to my car, in my car, go and park, get out of my car and walk through the rain to somebody's house. I then have to sit in their house for 3 hours wet and just sit there uncomfortable and wet, trying to make talk while I feel like crap and dream of just being home.
Right.
And then finally I can escape and I drive back and I get home and I take off all my wet clothes and then I'm finally dry and happy. And I think there's a lot to that. I think people just don't want to be wet.
Just don't want to do it.
Yeah. I mean, I understand, like in England, it was so weird. In London, I should say, not England, but in London, no one wants to talk to you, right? A lot of people I knew had a horrible time because they also could not make friends. They could not make connections. If you try to strike up a conversation with somebody on the train or in the train station or just on the street, they're going to look at you like you are a madman. They don't want anything to do with you.
But I would do well there.
But if you meet somebody in like a normal situation, let's say a friend introduces you to another friend, or you're in a class, or you're in a more casual situation, you're not out in the public. If you get along with that person, you will be friends with them forever.
Right.
Like they attach to people for life. Like if I write a sad Facebook post, I haven't lived in England for 10 years. I will still have a friend from England contact me and be like, oh my God, are you okay? What's going on? Do you need anything? Do you need to fly out here? You can come and stay with me. And like, these are not even people I was super close with.
Right.
So it's every city kind of has its own vibe and its own mentality. I think you would actually do really well in England, but
I need the
because you just need that initial in. You just need to start talking to people in a casual setting and they'll hang out with you every night at the pub. You do not hang out at people's homes, though. That's weird. That's some serial killer shit right there. Yeah.
See, okay, that's interesting. So people don't hang out at other people's houses. Maybe because they live,
They do
because
not.
if you're in London, it's not like you have 2,000 square foot place where you can chill.
Correct.
Right.
It is never going to be more than like 600 feet. Like
Right.
it's real small
That
and
makes
it's
sense.
shitty.
Yeah. We had a smaller place and we didn't want people over very often. But when you have a bigger place, it's just a little bit better. It's just more conducive to that. I get it. When I meet people from other countries, one of my first questions is, how many Mexicans are there in wherever you are? And there's not a whole lot out there.
No, I will say in England, the worst Mexican food I have ever had in my life was in Camden Town in the Camden Market. I got a burrito and they gave me ground beef with boiled carrots and peas. Yeah, it sounded bad already. And they had like sour cream in there, but it wasn't sour cream. It was like just a white cream that they just kind of chucked in there. And I think there was some salsa that was like canned, and that was like it. And they were like, here you go. Here's some disgusting meat roll.
There wasn't any Mexicans in the back cooking?
God, no. God, no. They were all Polish for sure. There was finally we got a good place called Oaxaca. It took a long time, but we did eventually get one good Mexican restaurant.
If they named it that, they were probably from there.
Maybe. I know that they sourced everything local, and their whole thing was like, screw it. It's not about making it authentic to the location. We're going to make it authentic with the local ingredients. And then it was very good. Very,
Oaxaca.
very good.
I've never been to Oaxaca, but their food there is super delicious. There was this restaurant in Ballard called Oaxaca. I don't know if it's still there yet though. It was super good. They one of their specialties is this. It's called mole, which is this like throughout Mexico, some regions put more chocolate in it than others, but it's this chocolate spicy sauce that's usually on chicken. But it was really, really good. And then there's one on Capitol Hill, I believe, but I don't think it's the same one, but it's still called Oaxaca. I don't think you can go wrong going to a place that's called Oaxaca.
And you know what? That's fair. How do you find the Seattle Mexican culture? Do you feel like there's much of one, or is it really, really lacking? Or like, I am fascinated because I know we have a very strong Asian culture and we have for many years, but it's taken a long time for South America to kind of bridge its way up through the north.
There isn't much here. When we go so my wife and I are uber wine drinkers. So when we go to the east side of the state to go to wine tastings and to wineries, there's a whole lot more. So I tend to try to find them and have conversations with them. But here there are, I use the term real Mexican.
What does that mean? What does real Mexican mean? From Mexico?
Yeah. Like I was born in Mexico.
Okay.
English is my second language. I remember going to kindergarten first day and I remember it as if it were yesterday of my mom dropping me off at school, just saying "Ve pa allá," which means go over there. And I stood in line, and then I just followed the rest of the kids in. I remember going to the front of the room or just in front of the door. And then I remember the teacher coming up to me and then just her mouth was just moving. It probably sounded like the Peanuts.
Oh, no.
The Peanuts sound. And then she knew that I wasn't understanding. So I remember her stretching her hand out. And then I grabbed it. I held her hand. And then she just led me to my seat. And I sat down. Like, I remember that very, very clearly.
Wow. So you're real Mexican, right? Because you're actually born in Mexico and English is your second language.
And English is my second language. Yeah. But so then we don't, there's the other Mexican is called the No Sabo Mexicans, which are Mexicans who were born here and Spanish is their second language.
Oh, sure.
And
but they know Spanish and they understand the culture.
They don't know Spanish very well. Like the no sabo means so no sabo is a way that a Mexican kid who doesn't know Spanish says, I don't know. he says no sabo, but that's incorrect. It's actually no sé. But because he does a mix of Spanglish.
Oh.
Does that make it's this whole Mexican dynamic. There's a whole lot of moving parts within Mexico, Central and South America. Like there's a ton. There's so many different. We're all different. Mexicans are different from Puerto Ricans to Brazil. Brazilians are super different to Venezuelans, Chileans, Argentinians. They're all so different. But with Mexicans, that's the like even in Mexico City. So people from Mexico City, they are uber egotistical and so proud of being from Mexico City that they literally consider the rest of the country just ranches and farmland. Like they think they are the center of, and those Mexicans are called chilangos from Chilangolianda.
Oh.
And everyone else is from provincia, which means from provinces, which is like barren.
Oh my God, that's so good.
So it's like I grew up, well, later on, my best friend was from Mexico City and he had a lot of his family there. So, you know, they have this whole accent thing, which is very different than where my family is. So I developed that little bit of an accent. They have a little bit more of sing-songy. They'll say something like, "Órale, ¿cómo estás? Vamos para allá, tomarnos unas chelas." So that's very Mexico City. But then where my family is from, we're from northern Mexico, which is called Monterrey. They're more gruff. They'll say, "Mira, chamaco, no hagas eso. Apacíguate." Like they're like the Japanese of the Mexican
like
accents.
Short and curt.
Yeah, you're right.
Oh, that's
Whereas
so good.
Mexico City is really sing-songy. See, I forgot where I was going with this too.
How infuriating is it when people confuse Spanish with Mexican Spanish? Because in Spain, everything's with a lisp. And it's such a different way of speaking, not least of which is that a lot of the vocabulary is not overlap. It really is pretty much a different language, but it's just so different. And the idea that people, think that it's the same thing is got to be infuriating.
In my opinion or experience, I should say, Mexicans don't really care because there's a world of difference.
Sure.
So we really don't care. What we do care is when you call us something else in Central or South America. Like when I was a kid, I went to this small private school and one of my teachers was doing roll call and then I forget what the conversation was, but there was like, "Where are you from?" And then we had one girl from Puerto Rico and then I was the Mexican and, the teacher goes, Puerto Rico, Mexico, it's very similar. It's the same, pretty much, is what the teacher said.
Whoa.
And then it's like, I kind of looked at him really weird, but I didn't say anything. But her name was Nilda. That's so funny that I still remember 7th grade.
That searing anger.
She got mad. She stood up and then I don't think she cussed out the teacher, but she said, "Don't you ever say that again. Puerto Ricans are not the same as," like she went full out.
Wow.
Saying that we weren't the same. Whereas, I mean, I didn't really, I didn't really feel one way or another about it.
Yeah.
But that's more of fighting words than from Spain.
It's so funny. It's interesting how you get other cultures' perspectives on things that you think you have a grasp of, like, okay, well, anything south of Texas is just all one big lump. Right. It's all one big mush. Don't worry about it. Like, don't try to separate out the fact that it's an entire continent down there. I remember it was so funny because when I lived in England on 4th of July, I thought I was going to get a lot of shit. Good Lord, they could care less.
Right.
They could care less that they lost America. They lost India. Are you kidding? They lost way bigger fish than America.
Right.
To them, we were just a drop in a very large, horrific hat of colonization.
The colonists.
So they're just like, we don't even have citizenship rights. Like anybody from a lot of the colonies get to live in England for 1 year, no questions asked.
Oh.
And they can, so a lot of Australians and Canadians can move out there and work there for 1 year. And that's like the deal.
Oh.
That's the we're sorry we colonized your land deal.
The consolation prize.
Yeah, it is. It's their consolation prize. You can come and hang out for a year. It's cool. Don't worry about the rest. It's great.
That's so funny. I think the Australians get really pissed when you confuse them with being British. I've had a few
Australians
get really mad.
Pissed when you like confuse them with New Zealanders. Like they're very picky.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, they I've done it a couple times. No, it's like this is just the tip of the iceberg of how a lot of the Mexican. Because I don't even like the word Latin, to tell you the truth. I'm not Latin.
Okay.
It's like I'm Mexican. Like the
Sure.
dynamic between all of these countries. I've talked about it a ton. And the only people who stick to we're all the same, they're the younger ones. They're the younger ones who are let's see, what's the term? I know exactly. Are woke. They're the ones who are in this, who want to put a blanket around everyone and say that we're the same, but that's just not true.
Yeah,
it's not true.
I'm
sorry. Go ahead.
There's something really beautiful about having your own unique heritage and knowing what that is and what that looks like and what that feels like and identifying with it and representing it, and to just say, okay, I'm one of a. Like I in a very different way, I understand what you mean, because like my family is from Bavaria and we're from a teeny tiny little town in Bavaria, and we are country bumpkins.
Yeah.
To everybody, we are from Trossenfurt. It is a town of like 6 houses, and my family is from there, and they go back all through time of they just grew potatoes forever.
Right.
And so it's hard for me to say I'm even, German, because it's like I'm really Bavarian.
Right.
And Bavarian is very different than German. It's not the same as Berlin. It's a whole separate thing. We have a lot of Nazi guilt that we get to carry around. So that's very exciting.
One of my really good buddies said that Bavaria was the hillbillies of Germany.
Yes. That's 100% how they're seen. Yeah, they're hillbillies. They're like the southern like bumpkin, the embarrassment to show up and roll into your family reunion. You're like, ooh, they don't know just ignore them. They're from elsewhere.
Yeah,
they don't
good
understand.
Beer though.
They have a lot of good stuff.
Yeah.
They don't want to drink milk cold though. So avoid their milk because they sit it out for like 3 hours before they drink it.
That's common. Mexicans,
it's weird.
Well,
do they?
Yeah. So we took my mother-in-law to Mexico 5 years ago, and where we go to Mexico, it's not it's Mazatlan. It's a modern city. It's not like it's out in the middle of nowhere. It's right on it's a coastal town. It's really nice, but it's still Mexico. So we took my mother-in-law there, and the first day we went to Soriana, which is the QFC of Mexico.
Sure.
And the meat aisle was just this meat case with ice, with the meat thrown on top of the ice, not wrapped.
Sure.
And the fish were there too, was there also. And then the milk was just out on an aisle.
Yeah.
It didn't need to be refrigerated, and she freaked out.
Sure.
She was like, this cannot be safe. I was like, this cow was probably alive yesterday.
Yeah, it's pretty recent.
And whatever they do to the milk just doesn't need to be refrigerated.
In Paris, that it's like that with the yogurt. The yogurt is just sat out there, and I'm like, ooh, it's room temp. But everyone's fine, so I guess it must be okay. I love seeing stuff like that in other cultures and be like,
neat.
Who's doing it wrong? Are we doing it wrong? Are you doing it wrong? I need to know more.
Yeah.
But hey, if a bunch of people didn't die, then they're doing it just fine.
It should be fine. Yeah, I don't have any trouble with that. I mean, but when I was a kid, when we used to go to Mexico to visit my grandparents, they did live out in the middle of nowhere in this little tiny ranch town called Ipolito. There was no grass, tumbleweeds, cactus.
Oh my God.
All rocks and sand. And my grandpa would kill animals. He had animals, so he would kill animals, and I would see them butchered. And right from, the men would be out in the back killing and butchering, or dressing, they should say, the animal. And then I would be they would get a plate, put the meat on there, and then I would go and take it to the kitchen. And that's where all of my aunts and my grandma would be cooking. So it would be right from there. So that stuff just doesn't bother me. The milk, I can't do unpasteurized milk. That's a little too much. But as far as everything else, it's fine. But
what does unpasteurized mean?
Like straight from the cow.
Oh, okay. Like there's no like sifting process.
It's
okay.
It's you go and milk the cow and you drink.
You just drink it.
Comes from that. Man,
I
my
imagine
parents
there's a lot of
loved
film.
it.
Ew.
Well, I mean, it is kind of gross. It's like there's blood in it. There's a lot of, they filter when we get milk here. I mean, they filter out a ton of stuff.
Whoa. And then it becomes cheese or something. Dog food.
Yeah, like my dad loved buttermilk made from that stuff, which is like hardcore. That's like a hardcore dairy product.
Oh my God. Oh. Oof, oof, oof.
It's fun though. I think a lot of people should experience that though.
Yeah, I think they should too. It's funny. So I'm pescatarian. So I'll eat fish, but I don't eat meat. And a lot of people are like, oh, like, I think they have a misconception as to like what everybody's a vegetarian for their own reason. Everyone's got their own reason to not eat meat. But for me, it's because I can't murder an animal with my own two hands. And I feel like if I can't do that, then I'm a hypocrite, and I don't want to be that person. But those people who don't know what like a dead chicken or a dead goat or whatever looks like through the whole process between it being killed, it being skinned, it being hung and drained, it, being dried out, and then it getting cut, and then being put in front of you for your plates. The people who just get it in these cellophane wrappers where it's been artificially colored and presented as like almost a totally new entity, that drives me crazy. I'm like, you're so far removed. Like, I really respect people who kill their own meat. I respect it a lot because they're involved in the process. Like they've got their hands in there. They know what it is they're doing, and they know what it is they're eating. Right.
It's so funny. You mentioned that. I'll swing this back to a movie. I saw this vampire movie the other day. Let's see if I can remember what the name of it is. And by the way, the show is now doing the CZ Media Monday Movie Minute. Blood Red Sky.
I feel like, did I see Blood Red? No, I didn't. That's one of Kelly's favorites. That's an airplane vampire movie. Right.
And this movie, there was a scene where this was her first vampire episode. And she goes to the refrigerator, takes out a package of meat, cuts it, and then drinks it. I'm like, that's not even blood that she's drinking. That red liquid in this meat package is not blood.
What is it?
It's this other material that leaks. Some of it could be dye. Okay, maybe not dye, but it's not blood. It's this other liquid that muscles produce that leaks out when it.
Oh my God, that's nuts.
So it's like, I turned to Lorraine. I'm like, this is part of the problem.
Yeah, I didn't know that.
There's a chance I could be wrong, but I really don't think I am.
No, I don't think you are either. That makes a lot of sense. That it excretes. Yeah, it excretes like a different kind of liquid, or
it's another fluid.
During the process of preserving it, there's something. Yeah, it's sweating something. Right. It doesn't have to be blood.
It's pretty good. You should check it out. You should watch it.
I'm intending on it. I'm getting a lot of crap actually from Eric as we speak. I'm getting texts from him saying, why haven't you seen this movie or that movie? It's really good. Dudes, I'm trying. I'm catching up, I swear.
Man, I don't see how you guys even make time to watch what you already see. I'm trying. I've tried to. The only reason I've seen, let's see, Blood Red Sky, My Heart Can't Beat Unless You Tell It To, The Cleaning Lady, Bad Candy, His Home, Fingers, Villains, and then I think I saw like another 5. But that's because I've literally been home all week.
Yeah.
And I've only been able to work a little bit.
It's a conscious effort. So there was a point in my life where I decided to stop watching television and be really purposeful about what I watched.
Mm-hmm.
So I cut the ties with network TV, and I thought, how many hours when you get home and you sit down, or what we used to do, I guess, as a people, get home, sit down, watch the news, and then wait till 7 or 8 o'clock, and then have the programs go until like 10:30 or 11, and then go to bed. That's hours. That's like 4 hours. That's
right.
2 feature films. So if you just say, you know what, I'm not going to watch these shows, but I am going to watch a movie, all of a sudden you can get through tons of content in less time. So I'm just really purposeful about how I use my time. And I'm trying very, very hard. I've been behind. I didn't get into horror films until college. So I'm trying to catch up, and it's uphill. It's an uphill battle.
There's a lot.
There's so many.
Yeah.
And there's always new ones. I'm like, God damn it, Shudder, your content is incredible. But like, I have so much work to do to get to where you are.
I love Shudder.
Oh, it's so good. It's so good.
I saw this Dracula movie on Shudder called what's it called? It's with Udo
Kier?
Yeah. It's called Blood for Dracula. Made in 1974, directed by Paul Morrison. It starts off, they're in Transylvania, I'm assuming, and Dracula is sick, but he has this really loyal servant who's trying to get him healthy. And this Dracula can only drink virgin blood.
Oh, shit. Okay.
And Transylvania is all out of virgins. There's a lot of banging going on. And
this is a good premise.
Yeah. It's like he can only drink virgin blood. So his assistant says, we have to go to Italy because they're so Catholic, they're so moral, there has to be virgins everywhere there. So they go to Italy, and they find this family that have 2 daughters who are anything but virgins, but they say that they are.
They're Catholic. They're Catholic.
Right.
They're very good.
But there's even a little bit of incest going on
with
these 2 sisters. But this is the absolute hilarious part, which I'm even talking about it, is that there's a field worker that works for this family that all of the other actors I think are Italian. This dude sounds like he just came over from Jersey.
Oh no. No.
He even says you whores. Like he calls them like it's so funny. It's like it's produced by Andy Warhol. So I don't know if this was an actual choice that they made for this one guy to he's from Staten Island, this guy. It's hilarious. That's the only reason I stuck out to watch the whole thing, because this guy made me laugh every time.
I love stuff like that, like 70s content, especially because they're pushing the envelope and they're doing so much weird shit. Sometimes you're just like, what is happening? Why even pretend? Why even hire this guy? What is this guy doing here? Does no one else? I know recently a Christopher Walken is definitely an Irish farmer movie came out. I have not seen it, but apparently Christopher Walken was hired to play a role in which he is a Irish dude, and it is very bad. Very, very bad.
I'll have to look for that one. That's awesome. Do you have any 2022 resolutions, movie-based? Movie-based
resolutions. Oh man. Well, yeah. Well, there's one that I am doing. I'm kind of like, oh, I'm cool. I'm a really good film person. I bought a lot of Criterion movies, but I never watched, but they sit on my shelf and it makes it look
It looks
like
nice.
I'm really smart.
Right.
Yeah. It looks very cool. So one of my resolutions is on Wednesdays, it's Backlog Wednesdays. So me and my partner are switching back and forth, and we each get to choose a film in our back catalog that we haven't watched because it feels like eating your vegetables.
Right.
And you just never want to watch them. So on Wednesdays, we're going through and we're watching these like old, fancy pants movies. So I finally saw In the Mood for Love. I've seen some samurai movies. I've seen I'm making my way through a really big stack of films that I need to watch because I own them. So.
I need to do that. We saw The Great Gatsby today.
Oh, really? Which one? The
70s
one or the new one? Yeah. The new one's pretty fun.
I liked it. I mean, I started to read it. I'm a horrible reader. I mean, the fact that I read that 28-page, which probably only has 2 pages worth of dialogue in it of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle comics, is an achievement. But
sure.
Like I started Gatsby because I wanted to, something to pretend to be smart.
Sure.
But I didn't watch it. I didn't read it. But no, it's pretty good.
Yeah. The book it's okay. It's not crazy long, but it does have a lot of metaphors, and that can be hard to like get your head around and like push through. Fitzgerald is its own beast, but the movie, it's fun. It's gorgeous. There's a lot of glitz. I think it gets a lot of that intent from the book out there. So, and it's better than the Robert Redford version from the 70s. So
I saw the trailer for it and it does not look fun. It looks
I saw it in high school, and I remember it being, it feels muddy. Like all the yellows are really muddy. And that's not what you want. You want gold to glitter if you're going to talk about the 1920s. Yeah. So
does your partner watch all of this stuff with you, or is there?
Yeah, he has the patience of a saint. He watches a lot of stuff that I'm like, look at this really weird movie that somebody would have shelved in the back corner of a library in the 1980s, and it would have been covered in dust. We're gonna watch this. Like I love movies like Cutting Class and just really bad old Vinegar Syndrome movie style stuff where it's really a bad film, but there's so much weirdness in it that it's kind of a fun ride. Oh. And he doesn't, but he loves really bad 90s movies that I never watched. So I finally saw Street Fighter.
What do you mean? Street Fighter's good. You got Jean-Claude Van Damme, you got Raul Julia.
Raul Julia is amazing, but I never saw it because I was like, that's such a boys film. That never would have stood out to me. So we each kind of complement each other in different ways.
There you go. My wife tolerates some of the stuff that I watch. She doesn't like uber gore, whereas I like uber gore. And then she doesn't like the horror movies that could be realistic. Like Cry Wolf. Like she doesn't like that.
Yeah. Yeah, I understand. I mean, like horror, it is such a, I think it's so funny. I have students who say to me, like, I hate horror movies. I'm like, you're weird and dumb. There's no way you hate horror movies. It is such a huge, that's like saying I hate books. Like there's some books you like. You don't like all books, but there are some books you like. It's such a huge genre that there are different kinds of horror. And I'm similar. I don't love torture porn. That's definitely my spot where I'm like, I want characters I care about. I don't want you to give me a character I have to purposefully hate just so I can enjoy watching them get killed in interesting ways.
So you're not an Eli Roth fan?
Yeah, I'm not an Eli Roth fan. I like the guy. He is super well spoken and like an interesting dude. But as far as his films, I fucking hate him. So, but yeah, like I like movies where there's more going on. And I feel like horror has tons in there that is about so much more.
Yeah. I had a buddy. He's in New York. He moved back to New York. He was only here in Seattle for a year, but he we would get into these debates about how minorities and women in Hollywood are, I don't even think the word was underrepresented, but that they were always, that there just wasn't, there were any strong characters. And then I said, are you a horror sci-fi fan? And then he goes, they don't count. I'm like, what do you mean they don't count?
What do you mean they don't count? That's an awful thing to say.
That is an awful thing to say. I said, you cannot dismiss these two huge genres of film where there are plenty of examples that you're looking for.
Yeah, that's not fair. And I would also say what you want in situations like that, if you're going to make an argument about representation, you should think about movies that people see. So if it's a crap movie, but a lot of people see it and it has a really good representation in it, it fucking counts, man.
Right.
Like just because it's not like Oscar.
Yeah. No, this was his defense mechanism when he would make a statement and then I would ask a question that would, you know, make his statement incorrect. He would, this was his defense mechanism to say it doesn't count, or I'm not talking about that, or set that aside. It's like, no, you
hate
can't.
That.
You can't do that.
It's not okay, man.
Especially if you're the one carrying on this conversation. It's like, let's broaden your horizons a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, there's some really, really interesting representation that is coming to light, and we're starting to see like, actually, there's these random films here or there that had some really cool moments of representation. But we're getting now finally to a really good point where, at least for Asian cinema, we're starting to see it become mainstream in a super positive way. But yeah, this stuff, it's taken a while. It's taken too goddamn long.
That's why more people need to make stuff. I mean, that's the thing. We need more people to make stuff. If you hate something, fine, but make what you think then works. Oh, sweet. Did you see how that the monitor just turned on for absolutely no reason?
Yeah, that was very exciting. I was like, oh no, did something crash?
I hope not.
I hope not too.
No, it didn't.
Okay.
There's a ghost in here.
Something that's really, really interesting that when I was studying turn of the century literature, again, a previous life when I was into books, something really fascinating that happened was women weren't like allowed to write books. And so the perception was the reason why women couldn't write books is because they were really bad writers. But they were really bad writers because they couldn't write books and they couldn't get the practice, and they couldn't, like, they weren't, you know, surrounded by other great authors, and they weren't getting the influences, and they weren't learning the techniques and the styles that would make a great author. So when women were finally starting to be published, there was this like tidal wave of incredibly awful female writing that just washed up on the shores, and people were like, told you women can't write. But shortly after, that stuff started to turn into incredible
it's
writing.
It's a process.
It is. It's a process. It's a process. So I feel like that's the case. You have to let people make the good stuff and the bad stuff and the genre stuff and the mainstream stuff. And eventually you're going to start to see like a better shape of the whole.
Right.
But, you know, you got to let it happen.
That's why we got to keep on making stuff.
Yes, for sure.
Well, I've taken up over an hour of your time. I super appreciate it. Pitch whatever you want to pitch.
Well, I guess the thing that I want to pitch the most is just Strange Eons Radio. Come and check us out if you haven't listened to us yet. If you have been turned off by Eric and Kelly, but you like the sound of me, I'm on there. So come check us out. Other than that, you know, I don't know. Everything else I have in my life is in process. I'm an editor, and the only film I think I've got that's out there right now on Netflix is Paper Tigers, which is a really fun, almost family-friendly kung fu movie. It's in a lot of top 10 2021 lists for action films and kung fu films. So
and you edited that?
I was the assistant editor, and the guy I was assistant editing, I'm his editor. So it was a really awesome collaboration where I got to have a much bigger say than an assistant editor normally does.
That's cool.
It was really fun. It was 6 months of my life, and they included fart jokes I didn't want. So it all comes full circle. But and then I've got a cat meowing at me. But yeah, so if you feel like you want to watch a really fun, family-friendly movie about aging guys who are no longer good at gung fu, then check it out.
See, I'm glad I didn't ask a whole lot of editing questions, because it would have just turned into, so do you like the cross cut? Do you like fades? It would have gone into
whatever one tells the best story.
It would have gone into a full-on tutorial on how to do stuff.
I know, and I literally just spent 5 hours today already teaching kids how to edit.
That's so funny. I was like, since I have you here, I have Premiere question for you.
I've got this render issue that keeps popping up. I'm not sure what's going on. My graphics card it's really playing back slow. I have answers. Just DM me on the sly.
Oh man. Okay, no, so then I have to ask. If you have a technical issue, do you troubleshoot it yourself, or do you have someone else troubleshoot it for you?
I troubleshoot it. I troubleshoot it as much as I can. And then if I hit a really big wall, there's different Facebook groups that I'm part of that are editors that I know of, that are legit editors, and I can bug them and say, hey, what the heck is this, y'all? And usually what happens is, the software that I know inside and out has done an update that has broken with another piece of software.
Man, that's whack. I hate that.
Yeah. It's frustrating. It's frustrating, but I like that they innovate. So I can't be too mad, but I'm also mad when I'm on a deadline and it's a lot of money on, then I'm really mad. So
I hear you. Well, all right. Well, thank you again. I super appreciate it. It was great talking to you. Hopefully I'm not the lunatic that your boys made me out to be.
No, you're a gentle giant, a heart of gold, a lovely, amazing human being that I look forward to talking to more, and maybe we'll get you on our show sometime too.
That would be cool.
It'd be super fun.
Yeah. Well, everyone, thank you for listening. Again, don't forget to check out our sponsors, Crunchy Red Fruit. You're going to get some great wine. Jackson knows what he's doing. And they also do wine pairing classes. Lori and I went to a wine pairing class where he paired Takis, Doritos, burgers from Lorena's in
what kind of Doritos?
Just regular Doritos.
Just normal nacho cheese.
Yeah. But they paired it with I don't even know what kind of, it was a liqueur, it wasn't a wine. And he knows what he's doing. So check them out, Crunchy Red Fruit. And then when you're in Capitol Hill or Wallingford, check out Rancho Bravo Tacos. Get one of these Birya Tacos. They're really good. And they're filling. Like normally, like regular tacos, I can eat maybe 8 of them. But for these Birya Tacos, I've had 3 and super full. So they're really good.
They sound insane. They sound like so much food.
It's a cheese and a lot of, they don't skimp out on the meat. You can choose to have a veggie taco.
Oh, sure. I've had their veggie stuff. It's real good. And I've had some other fish stuff too.
They're good.
Very excellent. And I will say, by the way, speaking of Doritos, they are in the chip world, they are the pizza of the chip world. Just like the quesadilla is the pizza of the Mexican world. I just want to see that in your mind.
I will never think of them the same.
Nor should you.
No. All right. And then again, don't forget to subscribe on your favorite podcasting app, Spotify, Apple, iHeartRadio, and Stitcher. And until the next one, thank you, Vanessa.
Thank you so much.
Adios.